Hi, Chris. Welcome to Funnel Vision Podcast.
Um,
Excited to have you on and share your tips and expertise in sales with our community of sales professionals.
yeah, sounds great, Alana. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Great. So we'll jump in. First question. What's the one game-changing tactic that you rely on to build really strong and long-lasting client relationships?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm not sure I would call this a tactic as much as a just sort of a strategy or a way of life, maybe more. But to me, I've always found that, y- you know, um, being genuine about caring about, the people that you're serving in a consultant client relationship is the most important thing. And people can sense, I think, if you're not, if you're not genuine about that, and if you don't really care and you're more focused on getting paid or, just getting through an engagement, I think that comes through. It's hard for that not to come through. And, so I try to be bluntly honest at all times and, and have genuine, interest and care about what a client is trying to achieve. And, and I think if you are just sort of naturally that way, then people will trust you and
Mhm.
a good long-term relationship, kind of flows from that.
Yeah, I think that's a absolutely great advice. And being genuine and like you said, truly taking an interest in a person, and wanting to understand not only their business themselves. Sorry, my I don't know if you can hear, my dogs are going crazy.
Oh,
So
that's
but this is just life and
it.
working from
Sure is.
home.
It sure is.
um but yeah, just having that, genuine, like understand interest in their business and their, like, just who they are as a person
Yeah.
is I think I agree, just super important.
Yeah.
So
No, me too. It's kind of the only way to fly. And again, people aren't going to trust you if they don't sense that you're genuine about that.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. What's the best piece of sales advice that you've received, and how has it changed your approach over time?
Um, yeah. So this is something that I kind of learned or sort of got a little religion on this a long, long time ago when I was a young salesperson. But I had a boss of mine one time. He was the head of sales, and I was a sales rep. And the way he explained it was that we, meaning the sales team, we have a responsibility to pay all the salaries of everybody else in the company. And and it was an interesting sort of revelation, I think, because as I listened to him, I realized, geez, he's right. Everybody else, all these other departments, all these other people, they don't do most of them don't do things that are, directly revenue generating. And they rely on the sales team to do that. That's our job, literally. And if we don't do it right and do it well, it puts the entire company at risk. And all everyone else, they've got, mortgages to pay and bills to pay and families to feed. And the way this guy put it to me and others on the team was that it's a big responsibility, and we have to come to work every day serious about, making sure we don't mess that up. And you know, no pressure type thing, but it really did change my perspective on the purpose of my job as a salesperson. And I'm telling you, so after that, I've been in his role many, many times as, VP of sales and whatnot. And I have told that little story to every single team that I've ever managed to kind of make them aware that, you got a higher responsibility here. And that's what we have to do. And that's what we have to, we can't let people down. So anyway, that's a little piece of advice that I give. Maybe it's a warning or maybe it's a scare tactic, but it's what I share with every team I've ever managed to make sure that they're aware that that is literally their job, is to pay the salaries of the rest of the company. Um, so anyway, that was a really cool and valuable lesson that I I learned really early on, and I've tried to never forget it. It's a good one.
It is actually a great one, and I've not like thought about it like that
Mm.
before, right? And I think like of myself as someone who runs a sales team and works with a lot of sales leaders, like I'm going to use that too because
Yep.
it what it does too is it makes people see. I don't think it's a scare tactic or like what you said, but it really makes people see like the bigger picture
Mm.
of like
Yeah.
where they fit in the organization. Like one of the things that I've been like learning and understanding lately is I was at a Vistage talk recently
Yep.
in my Vistage group, and one of the speakers was like really especially true with like the younger generations, Gen Z, millennials, and kind of that is they really want to understand like where their bigger purpose is too. And
Yeah.
and to like just to see that like this is where you fit into the organization. Like this is the purpose that you serve, and it's a really important one. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, you make a really good point. I think you're right. I think there's a couple of generations of people that are certainly, younger than me, that do think that way, that, there needs to be, a better work-life balance and just more purpose to their job. Otherwise, they'll go somewhere else. And, yeah, much different mindset, I think, than many years ago when I was younger and going through companies like that. I didn't think that way, but it's kind of healthy that people do. And but yeah, it's a good message. Um, yeah, and you're right. It is about sort of doing your job, kind of like the Patriots Bill Belichick thing. Just everyone has a job to do, and do it. You've got to do your part. And I had never heard it put to me that way either, but, that is literally the sales team's job, is to pay the bills?
yeah, and it's important.
Yep.
Every company
It
needs that, and
it
it's
sure
it's
is.
important.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
So I want to get your thoughts on AI.
Mhm.
AI is new. It's really shaking up the sales world. There's probably some good, some bad. Like, how do you see it changing the game and the future of sales?
Yeah, it's obviously it's huge and it's everywhere. And I have a presentation that I do specifically on AI in sales, and what it's doing to the average sales job and whatnot. So to me, I see it primarily, at least for now, primarily as just a gigantic productivity booster, because there are so many things that AI can handle for you that you used to have to actually do yourself. And so you can kind of skip entire, parts of your job, not skip them, but take advantage of them being done automatically for you by technology. And you become the recipient of information that otherwise would have taken you longer to get. Um,
Hmm.
and so that's, to me, that's the main thing that it's changed is, a lot of busy work, a lot of the grunt work can be automated, and so it just saves you time, and you literally have more time to spend doing the actual selling, rather than the prepping and the research and things like that. So huge time saver, which should be a productivity boost. It should help people sell more because they get to spend their time on the true selling tactics and strategies, and that can help them, close business. And I'm sure it will continue to impact more and more as we go forward and more things get kind of invented. But for now, I encourage everybody to learn what these AI tools are and how you can apply them to their everyday work. And, there's some of them are just amazing how much time they give you back. So that's sort of my take for now, anyway, with the caveat that I reserve the right to, add more to that answer later as more things come out.
Yeah, I think we all will be, adding more.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're just the beginning of really figuring all of this out and what it means. And there's so many tools and there's so much noise of, different tools and different things. And I think it will kind of over time we'll figure out like the best, ways to implement it and where to use it. But I agree, it's using it as a productivity tool, but not letting it take the place of, human relationships, in that being in sales, and also on my side in, in recruiting. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think is one thing that salespeople should stop doing if they want to be more successful?
Yeah. So that one is kind of a sales 101 question, the way I interpret it, right? It's amazing to me. I've managed several hundred salespeople at least in my time. And the one thing that I feel like no matter how much people realize you shouldn't do this, I continue to see it over and over. And that is salespeople that fall into the trap of selling features, right? Let's say it's might be a service that they sell, or often it's a product. And to the untrained salesperson or the inexperienced salesperson, they seem to think that, whatever product has the most features wins. And so they spend all their time just, pounding on the prospect about our product can do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, right? Meanwhile, if they took the time to properly qualify that prospect, ask better and more questions, really learn why they're there and what they're trying to fix in their business, then you can spend a heck of a lot less time, because now it's a rifle shot. You are going right at what it is that is broken or causing pain in their business. And they just want a product that can address that. They don't care that you can do 500 other things. So don't spend 2 hours or 10 minutes even talking about these other things that aren't going to solve their problem. They only care about solving their problem. So too many salespeople still don't get that. And so, my advice would be just stop doing that. Ask more questions, ask the right questions, learn the right information, and then put all your effort behind addressing just what they care about. And that's how you win deals, because so many salespeople just don't get that. And they waste time and money, and they bore people to death, talking about things that ultimately that buyer doesn't care about.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and really understanding, once you, kind of focus in on that, you're understanding on how to solve their problem
That's all it is.
versus,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's all about that, and, again, these are fundamental things. Like, most salespeople have been taught this, but, people have trouble internalizing it, and they sort of fall back to this just kind of rambling on, and rattling off every single thing, because they are proud of the product or whatever, and so they think I gotta talk about everything else that we can do, like somehow that's gonna matter. Um, it just doesn't. And the sooner people learn that, and then I think the more successful they will be. Like flipping a switch, they'll be immediately more successful.
yeah, that's absolutely true. So let's talk about recruiting salespeople and finding top talent. Do you have any like advice or go-to strategies for really identifying those candidates that are going to be, true rock star salespeople on your team?
Yeah, I definitely do, and I can appreciate that you're asking this question since this is your profession. Um, so it's amazing. I meet a lot of companies, a lot of founders, owners, CEOs of companies where, they haven't had any training in at least in the sales area often, right? And so now if you ask them about, well, hiring people in the sales organization, well, they have even less, experience, with that. And so I find that this is a huge problem for companies kind of in that small to mid size range called 0 to 50 million. You've got a lot of people that just don't know how to hire salespeople, and they can't understand why they can't retain good salespeople, or they can't find them. It's because they didn't find the right one in the first place, right? So here's my remedy for that. which I've learned over a very long career of being a head of sales and building sales teams. When I'm interviewing somebody, right, I try my best never to hire a resume, right? People fall into that. So a resume is a good sort of 30,000-foot checkpoint to see if we're in the right ballpark. And then if we are, once I interview somebody, it's not it's not tricky, and it doesn't take me very long, but I make them or ask them to walk me through a sale. Like often I'll say, take a sale that was the one you're most proud of, or maybe it was the biggest sale you've ever made, or something that is a positive for them, and then take me right through it, like literally from the minute you found out that this company existed, all the way through signing them as a new customer. Tell me everything you did, and then I just sit back and listen. And um, there's all kinds of clues that come out during that little story as you listen to somebody. And I've done it enough times where I can tell by the end whether that salesperson was driving that process personally, setting strategies, and they are the reason why they marshaled that prospect all the way through to a successful conclusion, or whether they didn't. And somebody else, perhaps in their organization, was really driving the bus, and they were just kind of reactive and kind of going along. So
Mhm.
that that to me is there's no escaping that as a person who's being interviewed. Um, you can just tell um, whether that person really understood how to win and that deal or not. And to me, that's the only question I have to ask people, and I just let them talk, and then I can usually tell right at that point that, yeah, this is somebody I want, or this is somebody that I'm going to have to spend a lot of time teaching. And it depends on what I'm trying to hire, but usually you're trying to hire somebody that can hit the ground running a little bit more so, right? If I'm hiring a 22-year-old kid right out of school, well, they don't have a story yet, and so I look at that totally differently. I'm looking for different traits and characteristics at that point. But if you're trying to hire a more senior person, to me, that's the best way to do it, because you really learn how well they know their profession.
Yeah, that's actually we do the same on our all of our sales interviews. That's a question that we ask regardless. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not that there's any part of that that's a deal breaker. It's to really understand what they did and how they did it. So like for that person might be a great person, but for may not fit into your team depending on what you're looking for. So it
Right.
depends very much, like you said, like what the position is that you're hiring for. But understanding like, did they have a team? Did they have people that were setting that were bringing in warm leads? Did they have leads from marketing? Did they prospect from the beginning? And again, none of these are deal breakers for every job, but
Right.
it's more of finding that right fit for your job. And if that person doesn't have certain experience that you're looking for, then it's about assessing and seeing like at least the red flags or yellow flags that you're looking at or the things that they don't have. So like asking those deep questions and not getting sold by a salesperson in an interview because they are generally great at talking, they're good,
Right.
personable people, and it's hard. You really have to ask those deep questions like you said, and that's a great one. And we ask it as well on all of our sales interviews to truly understand what experience our candidates have had.
Yeah. No,
So I love that.
yeah, that makes sense. And I think you hit the nail on the head that, like, not any individual thing that gets discussed is necessarily a deal breaker, because every job is different, right? So that's a really good point, because there might be a job you're hiring for where you need somebody who's going to be an aggressive prospector, because they've got to dig up all their own leads, maybe for in a particular situation. But then a different company, different situation, there might be a full BDR team, and you're hiring somebody who's just going to take those leads and run with them. And so they don't need that quality. You don't need someone who's going to make 50 calls a day or anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right on there. Depending on the dynamics of the particular job, then all of that stuff that you learn along the course of somebody telling you their story is gonna be more impactful or less, depending on what the requirements are.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about your background, what you do, and where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks. So first off, I spent my whole selling career in the tech space, right? So, software companies, SaaS companies. So I've been either a regional VP of sales or a VP of sales many times over. I've worked for lots of local VC-backed companies where startups where I built the team from nothing, from there. And I've also taken over some that were kind of restartups where they brought me in specifically because the company was pivoting, moving from SMB to enterprise selling, and they wanted to bring in somebody that had experience building and managing teams, that kind of thing. So I've got a pretty diverse background in terms of the different types of software companies I've worked for and the types of companies we've sold into, small, medium, large companies, etc. About a year ago, I decided to start a consulting practice, maybe because I just got too old to work for companies anymore or tired of it or what have you. Um, I've been having a blast doing this. I do essentially the same things that I've always done, right? I do fractional VP sales work or fractional CRO work where I come in and will manage a team on an outsourced or part-time, basis, typically 8 to 12 hours a week. And I do everything that I do. If I'm the full-time VP of sales there, I just do it on a part-time basis. So that's part of what I do. I would say the other sort of half of a typical engagement is where I take a deep look at the sales infrastructure of a company, and and I put them through a pretty lengthy assessment that helps to sort of shine a light on the areas that are deficient or sometimes missing entirely. And then I use that to prioritize the work that we need to do. And we set an agenda, like a statement of work, typically 3 to 4 months. And once a week, I'll meet with them and we'll knock off a different topic, each week over the span of 3 to 4 months. And so at the end of that time, I've kind of, propped up and fixed the foundation, the underpinnings, if you will, of their sales operation, which allows them to now scale the company. And a lot of founders and owners of companies that maybe don't have a background in this, they get their company to a certain point and they kind of run out of gas and they don't understand why they can't do this and start really scaling the sales team. Usually it's got to do with the lack of a proper sales, infrastructure. So I spent a lot of time helping them fix that. That sets them up to be able to now really grow. And then I manage the team on a fractional basis and, do what I've always done, which is help salespeople get better at their job and guide them and coach them and mentor them. And, the end result is to significantly drive revenue and grow their company. So that's always the goal. And it's great work because it's really rewarding. You take a company that's in the 0 to 10 million range, say, and if you can, you know, give them a 25, 35, 50% increase in their revenue, it literally changes the company. And it can even change the life of the employees in the company. And the cool thing is that the work that I do to help them get there is the same stuff I've been doing for 30 plus years. So it comes really naturally to me. It feels like the ABCs of selling to me, but to a company that has never had anyone with that sort of level of experience, it's like black magic to them. They're like, they can't believe it. They think I'm a genius sometimes. And but wow, what an impact it can have on a company. And that's the part that's really rewarding. So I'm really enjoying doing this for a living, just because you get to see the impact it's having on companies, and that's a great feeling. So I'm enjoying it, and yeah, looking forward to continuing.
Great. Yeah, you're teaching all those companies and salespeople how to pay the bills for the rest of the company,
Yeah,
pay
there you go.
everybody, get everybody's paychecks.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your time and all the fantastic advice you shared. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alana. Thanks for having me. And yeah, happy to do it again sometime.